Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be doing something a little bit off the beaten path, something that I didn't really consider that I'd be doing, but of course, at least for the time being until I get my computer stuff back, I am doing opinion videos. That being said, I'll be doing this video because I've been noticing a trend, at least amongst my most recent videos. So one being the F86 F40 JASDF review, and also some other reviews as well, like the Yak 38, things of that nature. And one thing that I've been noticing is that Gaijin, really, they have not been very good, at least when it comes to older vehicles, in changing their BRs, especially when it comes to aircraft, but, you know, tanks as well. And it seems as though the only vehicles that really get major BR changes are newer ones that have just gotten added. So I don't mean chronologically newer ones in terms of the human, time scale. So not like a tank that was built in the 1990s versus a tank built in World War II or whatever the case may be, but rather when it was added to the game. I'll be using a few examples here. The F86 F40 because its BR is a little bit wonky, and I'll go over that in a moment. The A2D1 mostly because of its AB BR at 9.0, and also I'll give an example with the Leopard 2PL as well because they're all relevant and they all kind of play a part in this story, so to speak. But you know, these are just a few examples of many, and I'm sure you guys have many, so let me know in the comments below which ones you think have really weird BRs and probably shouldn't be. But that being said, please like, comment, subscribe. You guys know the dealio. Your support is always the best, and I always appreciate every single subscription, like, comment. You know the deal. I love you guys for doing all of that. It means the world to me. With that said, let's start off with our first example here, and this is a vehicle that I recently did a review on. If you'd like, check it out in the comment below and also in the description below. It's the F86 F40 JASDF. Now, this is a 9.3 BR aircraft that sits as a fighter in the Japanese tech tree, the Japanese air tech tree. And one might think, well, 9.3 BR turns well, so on and so forth. Yes, and it also has missiles, and some people might use missiles as justification for being 9.3 PR. These are among the worst missiles in the game. They're AIM-9Bs, and it only gets 2 of them. It only gets 2 AIM-9Bs. It is subsonic. It has MGs, so it's not even a cannon carrying Saber, but rather it carries M3 HMGs. So, I mean, albeit some people really like those, it has a ton of ammunition, and it does have, you can say a lot of good things about HMGs, but cannons, they are not. And it is blatantly obvious when you're trying to shoot down enemy planes, and they just do not die unless you get a lucky hit. Again, check out my review if you want more on that, because there are a lot of problems with that plane. It's a great plane, but again, at its BR, not so much. Let's just go, for example, with the Seahawk Mark 100 Vixen Yak 38, right? So with the Seahawk Mark 100, it is a much higher BR than it. So the F86 F40, whether it's the JASDF or just the regular tech tree version for the Japanese, sits at, again, 9.3 BR. The Seahawk Mark 100, 8.0 BR. But they both carry the same exact missiles, the AIM-9Bs, which is absurd. And the Seahawk also has cannons. Now, one could very well argue, and it is totally true, that the Seahawk pales in comparison to the F86 F40 in pretty much every performance metric that you can throw at it, whether it's speed, acceleration, rate of climb, turn time, whatever the case may be. But as far as offensive weaponry is concerned, they are the same, more or less, with the Seahawk having an advantage because it has cannons, and they're pretty good cannons, and it has a good amount of ammo with them. So you have these two planes. Again, F86 F40 obviously is going to be a much better plane overall, but it's 1.3 BRs higher than the Seahawk Mark 100, of which carries the same missiles, which pretty much wipes out the missile argument as to why the F86 F40 is at its BR, because you have a plane that is substantially lower in BR and also has better cannons, better offensive armament than the F86 F40, but again, it is a much lower BR. Now with the Sea Vixen, and this one is pretty much about the same thing, except I would say on a bigger scale. So the Sea Vixen currently is 8.7 BR, and it has no access to cannons, which is crazy, right? So some people might say, whoa, 8.7 BR, no cannons. Yeah, but this thing can carry tons of ordnance and has much much better air-to-air missiles, so it can carry up to 4 air-to-air missiles of 2 different types. Those 2 types being the Fire Streaks and the Red Tops, and these are both very good missiles, and some people might prefer one over the other, which is totally reasonable. Now, it also has substantially more ground ordnance, and it is also a substantially faster plane. It performs much better. It has afterburners. It can, just without afterburners, if this was to start at the same airstrip as an F-86 F-40, it will get kilometers, many kilometers ahead of that Sabre before the battle even starts, which is tremendous, meaning it has a much higher rate of climb as well. It's just a much better aircraft, in my opinion, than again the F-86 F-40, especially if you can launch those missiles from an advantageous position. I've had matches before. I think my first match ever with the Sea Vixen, I had 4 air-to-air kills with it, and they were all hits. All hits with its missiles. I forget which missiles I used, but they were all hits, which is insane. Whereas you're not going to get many hits with the AIM-9B that comes equipped with the F-86 F-40 Sabre. Alternatively, you also have the Yak-38, which is a BR 9.3 fighter, and this is also a premium plane, but it has R-60s, which are far better than anything that the Sea Vixen and also again the F-86 F-40 has. It's just ridiculous. A 9.3 BR fighter is just substantially better in all ways actually over the F-86 F-40, except when it comes to turning capability and total ammo count, though the latter is made up for at least in part because the Yak-38 uses cannons instead of again the HMGs, and again HMGs, the 50 cals, can be great when used in the correct application in killing NPC air targets, for example. It's great going against soft ground targets in both air RB and ground RB. It is fantastic, but you're going to have a tough time knocking out a plane in one hit, which you will need because at these BRs, planes are incredibly fast, and the likelihood of you actually getting a ton of hits on a single aircraft, it's not really all that great. It's not like it is when you're facing lower BR piston planes, because they just don't move as well. You can stay on them more easily. There is such a wide variety of maneuverability at higher BRs that it's just very difficult to do, and by the time you actually have a lock on somebody, oftentimes they have sped away, making your HMGs useless. And just quickly before moving on to another plane altogether, the F-86 F-40 also sits at the same BR as the MiG-21 PFM, which uses comparable missiles and has much better performance when considering speed, ground attack, cannons, and arguably is better turning as well over the F-86 F-40. Makes no sense to me. Please tell me, Gaijin, if you actually have a rep watching this video, let me know in the comments below what is the reasoning for the F-86 F-40 JASDF to have as high of a BR as it does. If it doesn't, here's another idea. Maybe drop its price. You know, $50 is ridiculous. It's a really good plane for some people, but unless you're a really big fan of turn fighting, regardless of speed, you are probably not going to like it. Drop the price. Maybe just drop the BR, drop it down to 9.0, maybe 8.7. It's not worthy of a 9.3 BR. Anyways, now another example, the A2D1. This is something that I mentioned recently in a video that, in my opinion, did surprisingly well, and I'll link that one below as well. Now, while the A2D1 has a fairly decent BR in RB at 7.0, in AB, its BR is 9.0, which is insane, and I think it was recently higher at 9.3 BR, so it's actually dropped a little bit. Now, I came up with a few reasons as to why I thought that Gaijin might be able to reason out here for its incredibly high BR in AB, especially for a propeller plane, and it's that it has unlimited in-air bomb reloads in AB, which really makes it extremely powerful, in that people also ignore it when it side climbs, which is pretty crazy. Again, watch my video if you want to know what I'm talking about. It's kind of ridiculous how much tunnel vision AB players have near top tiers, and because the A2D1 also has a powerful offensive armament, which is always very, very favored in Air AB. Now this, however, leads us to have to look at the fact that it is still a rank 4 aircraft, which severely hampers its grinding capability if you play AB, as you will typically want to use it in a lineup with 9.0 BR or so planes in the regular air tech tree. But those are typically going to be rank 5 or rank 6 at 9.0 or so BR, with all planes of rank 6 or higher, if you're looking to research a rank 6 plane, receiving a huge RP reduction if you're grinding for it with a similar BR, the rank 4 A2D1. So if you're an air arcade player, player, you will have a severe disadvantage just in terms of grinding with the A2D1, especially when it comes to challenges. A lot of people used to bring out their A2D1s for good reason. I used to be able to knock out the bombing challenge, for example, in one go, get like 5 kills with it. I mean, I would get a huge amount done with Operation Summer, Operation Winter, just with the A2D1. But now that it's at such a high BR, even though, again, people do tend to ignore it, now the opportunity is there for them to be wiped out. And if the enemy team is at all competent, you will be wiped out of the sky immediately. I mean, the A2D1 is by no means a match for any plane at these BRs. And you could also look at the Buccaneers, for example, the S1 especially. Awful BR in AB and RB. It makes no sense. It's really a very difficult plane to use, which is insane because it was an event vehicle. So figure me that one, Gaijin. It has no offensive capabilities. As far as I remember, it does not even have countermeasure. So it will be shot out of the sky quicker than almost any other plane in the game. In fact, actually, when I'm playing, for example, Russian jets at high BR, I go for Buccaneer S1s because they are so easy to destroy. It makes no sense to me. Now for tanks, and I'll mention this one on the side because it is not a premium, but is still purchased with Golden Eagles quite often. It's the Leopard 2 PL. Right when this one was announced, myself, along with other content creators, stated that its BR would be driven into the ground by noobs losing. Now, while it hasn't exactly been driven into the ground, one could very easily argue that the win rate, at least at first for the PL, was so bad that it forced Gaijin to reduce its BR, which now makes it a very strong 10.7 BR tank, especially considering that it has access to the DM43 rounds, which have over 530 millimeters of armor pen at max. Now, my point is that Gaijin was extremely responsive when changing the BRs for the PL due to its poor win rates, as it was changed within weeks of its release from 11.0, if I'm not mistaken, to currently 10.7 BR. With it's much the same with the Harrier GR1 when that was first released, going from 9.3 or even 9.0 BR, I'm not sure if it was 9.0, I believe it started at 9.3, all the way up to its current 10.0 BR in RB, which is where it deserves to sit because it has ridiculous missiles. Ultimately, you have some vehicles like this, of which might see rapid BR changes shortly after they enter War Thunder, and other forgotten vehicles that are no longer viewed by Gaijin and just kind of rot with their BRs that make very little sense. They may have made sense years ago, but no longer. Again, the F86 F40 is the poster child for this, though the A2D1, again in AB, is also a good example. Let me know if you guys can think of a vehicle with a BR that makes no sense in the comments below. I'd be really interested to hear. Now, I'd probably be adding more vehicles to this list, but I have no internet at the time of writing this script and recording this audio, and I'm also just using some gameplay that I was lucky enough to record over the last few days when I did have internet. Also, having more vehicles in this video would possibly turn this from a somewhat quick video to one that is many times longer. I mean, I've had hour-long videos before, and those were not received well. Decent videos, but not received well. Either way, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Does Gaijin have a big BR problem? Do you guys think that most BRs are right, wrong, or somewhere in between when speaking about how War Thunder is handled in general? I'm interested again to hear your thoughts. As said, thanks again for all of your amazing support, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.